Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. I'm David Pascal, the City Attorney, and have a presentation for you from the Office of the City Attorney. First, I want to let you know about the folks in our office. We have 10 employees, including me. We have 7 attorneys. One of those is transitioning to part-time now, and you guys have met our newest attorney, Ms. Karen Strand. I think you know all of the attorneys in the office. Who you may not know are our administrator and our paralegals. Our legal administrator is Brenda Hood. I'll talk to you a little bit about what she does in her office later. And 2 paralegals, Gail Thompson and Tana Colwell. And I'll share some information with you about what they do as well. And what I'd like to do in this presentation is review some of the council goals that you've set and let you know how my office supports those goals. I'm going to provide you some information and some data about the different functions in our office. I'll review some recent accomplishments in our office. I'm going to present you with an opportunity I'd like for you to think about and something I hope to bring to you this fall, and then discuss some challenges in our office. Matter of fact, the challenge we might be revisiting something Ms. Land spoke with you about. So on the council goals, I think you've got 6 broad areas, and we really play a role in all of those in connection with supporting all the different departments. But I picked out 2 that we really do have a big impact on. And one of those is attractive neighborhoods. We support those goals by maintaining commercial or assisting in maintaining commercial and residential properties. We improve the regulations that impact neighborhood appearance, and we're involved in promoting programs for property maintenance and appearance regulations. And we do this primarily through working with your planning staff. We work with neighborhood services, and of course we also handle the prosecutions over in municipal court. We're also involved in your vibrant economy goal, primarily in connection with downtown redevelopment or revitalization. We've worked with Beverly Able to help create the Mesquite Downtown Development Advisory Board, and we also prepared the facade program, which we're looking forward to people taking advantage of that and seeing it get kicked off. So now I'm going to go over just briefly some of the major roles and functions in our office. Most of you know that we, of course, provide support and advice to you, the council, to all the different departments and the boards and commissions. We also do contract review in our office, not just general contracts, but also economic development and interlocal agreements. All natures of agreements flow through our office. We also work in connection with Public Information Act requests, and I will go over that in a little bit more detail with you later. We handle tax foreclosures, and I have some interesting information for you on that subject. Property damage claims and liability claims flow through our office, as well as you're familiar with the ordinances and resolutions that we do. And then finally, as I mentioned, well, before I get there, we represent the city in litigation and oversee outside counsel, and we also handle municipal court prosecutions. All right, so I do have some data and charts for you on some of these subjects. Contracts, you'll notice that the number of contracts being reviewed in our office are up significantly for the last fiscal year. I think we're doing a better job of making sure all agreements come into our office now. We're getting a look at all of those. I think the council is seeing some better agreements as a result of that and some reduced risks for the city, hopefully, as an outcome of that. This is a chart showing property damage collections, and actually it shows by year the damages to city property and the collections we've been able to achieve. Damages would be things such as, the most common is a vehicle accident where somebody runs into one of our light standards or a fire hydrant. You'll see something I've noticed is the collection percentage is continuing to decline. I think that may be contributed to the declining number of drivers with insurance, but nevertheless, it is something that we're focused on, and we have implemented recently a new strategy for following up on these claims, keeping on track with them, making frequent demands, and filing suit if necessary. So I'm hopeful that that number has bottomed out. If not, hopefully we'll see a trend upwards. City liability claims, these are claims where we have injured someone or someone else's property. They're primarily handled through TML. You'll see a spike in the first half of this year. That's due to a large personal injury claim that has been denied. You'll see the amount of claims paid has paid the same. I would have liked to have thought that the 24% paid this year might be a little bit lower, but we did have 2 claims that make up the majority of that 24%, 2 larger claims. Ordinance is a resolution. You guys are familiar with all of this. You'll see down on the end under 2019, we've got the first half of the year of what we've done, and then we've projected out for the end of the year. And you'll see our workload continues to increase year after year. There was a bellwether year for ordinances last year, which, as Ms. Land said, you had a lot of stuff going on with the annexations, the charter review, and the election. So that's the reason we think those numbers were up last year, or at least the ordinances number. Municipal court cases. I do have a couple of slides for you on this, and let me explain what you have there. You've got 2018 in the blue. The green is what we've actually done the first half of this year, and the red is what we project to do by the end of the year. And you'll see again, in all of these types of cases, we've got increasing workload. Next is a slide that shows some of our cases, the different type of cases we have with the same color coding. And you can see again that the numbers are increasing from last year to this year. Although I will let you know on the juvenile pretrial chart, we did have a large number of cases MISD filed at the end of last year. We don't really anticipate that they'll file the same number of cases before the end of this year. And so that red stack there, we hope will actually come in a little bit lower. And I would like you to know that I failed to mention earlier on those claims, both against city property and claims that come into our office. Those are handled by Gail Thompson. She does most of that work in receiving them and processing them and working with them in TML. Deetra Hill is our primary prosecutor over in municipal courts. As I've mentioned, the workload over for Deetra Municipal Court continues to increase. She is really at about capacity, and so we have been working to get her some relief from some of the other attorneys in our office. Our tax foreclosures. This shows the last few years of tax foreclosures, and you'll see a spike beginning in 2017. Those of you that were on the council in 2016, you'll remember at the end of the year, December 2016, the council adopted a tax foreclosure policy. And that foreclosure policy is really pretty restrictive. It only allows the most egregious properties that are behind on taxes to go to foreclosure. And so after that was implemented in 2016, there was a backlog and a large number of foreclosures occurred in 2017. You'll see, I think 2018 might be a more typical year, and so far this year we've done 4. Brenda Hood in our department, in addition to her other responsibilities, and she has numerous responsibilities. She took this on as administering this program in her office. She's done a really wonderful job, and she really takes joy in seeing these dilapidated properties return to a useful life. And so what I've done here, next few slides, I'd like to tell you that even though Brenda and I are not exactly Chip and Joanna Gaines, we'd like to give you some before and after reveals, some positive effects of what's come out of these tax foreclosures. So this is a property, it was a vacant lot sitting over southwest of Baylor Scott & White Hospital off of Collins and 80. Very much behind on taxes. It was foreclosed on, sold, and today you've got a nice new 2-story structure sitting on that property, and the DCAD value increased by 10 times. Next, we've got what was or is in this picture a boarded and abandoned structure. Is over near Galloway Elementary School on Saffron Circle. After foreclosure, it was remodeled. The ad valorem value almost doubled, and an eyesore in this neighborhood is now a newly remodeled home. And then one many of you may remember, these are 3 lots over just north of City Lake Park, south of our downtown area that is currently being revitalized. These lots were significantly behind in taxes. Not only that, as you can see, they were a major environmental issue for the city, as well as a serious problem for the neighborhood. One of our longtime businesses, Stage Door Dance, purchased these lots. They built a new structure over there. As you can see, they've got a very nice finish out. The property value is up over 27 times. On top of all of that, we've now got a wonderful facility in the city where hundreds of our children in our community can go and learn the performance arts. All right, so I've got one more chart for you, and this is sort of echoes some of the things that Ms. Land showed you with respect to the Public Information Act. Let me give you just a real brief overview of the Public Information Act. So most of these requests go into Ms. Land's office. If she can release the documents, she does. We never see them. Same with the police department. If they can release the documents, they do. We never see them. Or if there are automatic redactions, they make those and go out. These numbers are requests to the city that Ms. Land's office or MPD cannot release. It's required to come to our office for legal review. As I mentioned, there are some automatic exceptions, very few, where the state law says you can automatically redact these and release these. Most exceptions are not automatic. They require our department, and this work is primarily done by Tana Caldwell, who, like Keely Smith, she's just maxed out, is required to identify the exceptions that apply, and then we're required to generate a legal brief to the Attorney General, send it down to Austin, have them review it, and then the AG says, yes, redact it, or no, we don't agree, you've got to release this one particular thing. And you can see these requests, kind of the same thing I've done with the other slides. We've got the half year at the end, and we're predicting where we'll be at the year end. The numbers just are remarkably increasing. I would like to comment on one thing. I mentioned automatic exceptions. There's another exception where you can redact and release, and those are called prior determinations. Those are only issued by the Attorney General's office to cities in particular, and it's only to a city when they establish proficiency with redacting certain information. And the AG is very selective in giving these out. And I want you to know that the office of our city attorney here in Mesquite, we have 7 prior determinations. That may not seem like a lot, but it's the most in the state the last time we checked. And so Tana Caldwell, Ileana Fernandez, who used to handle those, and Karen Strand, who's now handling them, they do a very good job and provide a good customer service. All right, so let me go over some of our accomplishments this year. As I mentioned, you guys, we've hired Karen Strand. One thing I don't know if I've shared with you we're excited about, I mentioned downtown revitalization. Karen worked for a while in Tyler. I don't know if you recall, but Beverly Abel also worked in Tyler on their downtown program. The two of them worked together on that, and so we're excited about them bringing that partnership to Mesquite and us seeing some really good results. I mentioned the property foreclosures. There's been almost 40 in the last 5 years, collected over $1 million in taxes. And speaking of collections, you heard from Eric Pratt earlier. We don't have a lot of these, but when he's had problem tenants that are behind on their payments, we've become involved. We've got all of those tenants caught up current, and we've done that without having to go to suit. I mentioned where the claims collections were starting to dip. We've implemented a program to try to put a floor in on that, if not turn that number up. And hot disputes, that's hotel occupancy tax disputes. We've recently, I think just this year, collected over $470,000 in unpaid hotel occupancy taxes. And I do want to give credit to Debbie Mall and the finance department. They are the ones that identified these problems. They get the auditors, they work it up, they do all of the heavy lifting, they bring the case to us, and then we try to bring the money in. As a matter of fact, Cody McCullough in our office is the one that does that mostly. And well, that's Cody there. I guess I need to do a better job of looking at my slides. I'm not sure how that got in there, but he's got one of the recent collections there. Other accomplishments in our office. I'd like to think that we've improved the efficiency of the operation of our office. We meet more regularly now. We make sure we stay on top of new and pending projects and new and pending council matters. And we also discuss everything else that's going on in the city and things that impact our office. And as I mentioned, we're working to provide Dietrich Hill some relief over in the municipal courts. And I think just a few more accomplishments. I mentioned the contract review procedure. We've improved on that, so we're reviewing more of those. I mentioned downtown revitalization efforts. And finally, we recently did this. This goes back to the Public Information Act request. We sat down with Mesquite Police Department, and they were able to agree to work with us to keep some of the requests that do not require legal review. They agreed to start processing those in their office, and so that gives a little bit of time back to Tana Caldwell and the attorney in our office that's doing that. And I want to thank Chief Cato, Chief Fayberg, and James Harrison for their cooperation in achieving that. Opportunity. So an opportunity I hope to bring to you guys this fall deals with substandard structures, how we deal with those. Right now, those are going to our Building Standards Board. Under the local government code, though, we can take these to municipal court, and that's what we're proposing. Just so you know, the substandard structures, the city can order the vacation, relocation of the occupants, securing, or even the demolition of a structure if it meets certain requirements, if it's a hazard to the public health, safety, and welfare. We think by moving these cases to municipal court, we can achieve even better results than what we're seeing right now. First of all, we'll have all of these cases heard by our municipal court judge. We'll be able to utilize our court structure that is already in place, which we think will bring efficiencies. We think it'll bring better scheduling and in connection with follow-up, and eliminate any issues that we've had with scheduling and quorum issues with the board, the Building Standards Board. We think it will promote greater uniformity and fairness in how these cases are handled, because we'll have the same jurist hearing these cases and applying the same standards across the board. It'll also, I think, bring greater flexibility and some expanded remedies, and that we'll have a full-time judge and the administration over in the clerk or the courthouse to monitor these cases and to make sure the orders get enforced. And so we're working with the city manager's office to bring you something on this in the fall. And finally, the challenges, or the challenge in this case, and it's similar to what Ms. Land said. It relates to the Public Information Act. I want to let you know the requests are increasing not only in numbers, as you've already seen. We can't really quantify it, but the time it takes to review these cases are increasing. And I think if I explain this, you'll understand what I'm talking about. So certainly over the last 10 years, digital media has become more prevalent. Matter of fact, dash cams and body cams are very prevalent. You see it on the news all the time. And we get requests for those frequently. And when those come in, Tana Caldwell or somebody's got to spend their time looking at every single minute of those videos. And if you can think about this, a major incident, you could have several cars called out to the incident, you could have several police officers at the incident, you've got all of those dash cams, you've got all those body cams that have to be reviewed. And it's not only looking for things in there like license plates, insurance information. Even if you can't see anything, she still has to listen to the audio because the officers are talking. And the officers may say something about one of their children. They may say something about an illness. That's got to be redacted also, or at least it's got to be flagged and then briefed for the AG and sit down there. So with the increased numbers and the increased time it takes, this is really having a big impact on our office. I've got a comparison for you, similar to what Ms. Land showed you. I'd like to tell you back in 2008, which is the first date on the left, we had one person in our office, matter of fact, it was Tana at that time, who was doing this part-time. She was able to help out with other matters. Today, she is full-time and actually has to come in occasionally on weekends to stay caught up. Back in 2008, we had an attorney that didn't have to spend a lot of time reviewing and doing some legal briefing. Now it takes about half the time of one of our attorneys. And of course, you see the percentages increases. Those are, I forget the average, but I think it was a little over an average of 20% increase each year. So we're working with the city manager, city secretary's office, and police department to try to come up with some solutions, and we do hope to present something to you on that later. That concludes my presentation. I would like to note this is the first presentation my office has done in years, if not decades. We didn't have any of this information on the shelf to update, and so I do want to thank my staff for pulling this information together. I think they did a terrific job of doing that. Gail Thompson helped put the format of the PowerPoint together. And I do thank the council for allowing me time to share some information about what we do. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pascal. Mr. Noche, we have a green light.
Okay. Really don't have any questions. Do have a point of praise, and I can't remember the timing of your arrival versus this, and it may have been under your predecessor, but really want to compliment Mr. Holzapfel and legal staff for the job that they did on rewriting our contracts for road construction. I did a little self-experiment, which is always dangerous, but on Friday after July 4th, I decided to drive by 2 road construction projects, one being up by the Villas at Vanston, the other being at the Gus Thomason between 80 and 30. Written under 2 different contracts, the contract between 80 and 30 being written under a new project contract system. And I think, was it you or Mr. Fox, Jeff, that was involved in that contract rewrite?
I give the Matt credit on it.
Okay. But that contract actually put in bonuses and incentives to the contractor. And so on July 5th, as I drove by all this empty equipment up on by the Villas at Vanston, I then proceeded and continued south on Gus Thomason to between 80 and 30. And it looked like somebody had kicked over a pile or an ant bed over there. I mean, there were just people everywhere. There was equipment moving, and it was fantastic to see. And so I want to encourage that kind of creative thinking. I also want to encourage your office to be a part of that. And it really is making a difference and can make a real difference. Also, really like the way we had a $300,000 check come in just a few weeks ago as a result of the efforts in your office. So thank you.
If I can follow up on that, that was before my time, and I would imagine Ileana Fernandez in my office had a key role in that, but you're right. I know you guys realize it, but we do work closely with Sonia Land, Matt Holzapfel, and they're terrific people to work with, and they do a very good job for you.
Yeah, we appreciate. I know that you've got a lot of work that you have to do because, like you've already mentioned, but the large amount that comes in for police and all. So I know that you work closely with them and the chief and their department as well. But thank you. I don't see any other questions. So thanks for your presentation.